Welcome back to Next Shift with Rick Wagan. Suzuki does not suck. This is the post-game show after the Montreal Canadiens beat the Florida Panthers 3-1 at home to bring their record to 71 points, 1 point behind the New York Islanders, with a game in hand for the last playoff spot. The Montreal Canadiens jump over the Columbus Blue Jackets with this win, and they're now sitting 1 point behind with 16 games to play. The Montreal Canadiens took it to the Florida Panthers right from the get-go. Montreal outshot Florida, outpressured them, and took an early 1-0 lead in the first period. Patrik Laine scored the first goal on a power play, assisted by Lane Hutson and Cole Caufield. It was a great assist by Lane Hutson, who set up Patrik Laine, who did not one-time it, but used his bullet shot over the left shoulder of the goaltender. The Canadiens continued to press for the remainder of the period. They did get a goal scored by Alex Newhook, assisted by Suzuki and Matheson, it would have been. However, it was called back on goaltender interference, which was questionable at best. Gallagher touched the goalie, I guess you can say, and it looked like he lost his stick, but I think he would have scored with or without that play. So it was reversed, and the Canadiens had to go back to 1-0, but they did score another beautiful goal by Cole Caufield, assisted by Juraj Slafkovsky. This was an interception by Slafkovsky, who hit Caufield in front of the net, who used his patience and found the short side on the goaltender. They took a 2-0 lead into the second period. They did give up a goal by Slafkovsky, assisted by Carter Vernegy and Sam Bennett. On that play, Sam Bennett definitely picked Matheson. It could have been called interference. It was frustrating for the Montreal Canadiens fans, and it ended up being a 2-1 score at that point. In the third period, Christian Dvorak scored a great deflection goal off of an interception again, this time by David Savard, to make the score 3-1. The Canadiens continued to press. It was a back-and-forth hockey game. At the end of the game, there was a late penalty by Christian Dvorak with a little over 3 minutes left, and the Montreal Canadiens killed that one off. There was an unbelievable save by Samuel Montembeault right from the slot, a glove save, price-esque, I guess you can say, and the Montreal Canadiens win the game. It was a humongous game for the Montreal Canadiens to maintain their place in the division, in the playoffs. They are, like I said, 1 point behind, but now they have a game in hand on New York. It's still a multiple team race. I guess the Montreal Canadiens do have 2 more games against the Ottawa Senators, and their next game is Tuesday night in Montreal against the Ottawa Senators. Again, the biggest game of the year. Right now, like I said, the Montreal Canadiens are sitting in the first spot outside of the playoffs, right ahead of the Columbus Blue Jackets by a point. They are 3 points ahead of the Detroit Red Wings with the same amount of games. They are also 3 points ahead of the Boston Bruins with 2 games in hand. The Montreal Canadiens are definitely one of the top 2 or 3 teams trying to vie for that spot. Again, I think it's feeling like it's Columbus, Montreal, and New York, and New Jersey's in that mix as well. New Jersey may fall down and New York or Columbus could replace them. Either way, the Montreal Canadiens need to beat 2 of those 3 teams to make the playoffs and or catch Ottawa. Like I said, the team is flying high right now. The first line of Slafkovsky, Caufield, and Suzuki are just playing unbelievable hockey. They're probably one, if not the best, first lines in the NHL right now. Since that Fourth Nations break, they've been on fire. Slafkovsky is using his body, playing very much like Brady Tkachuk. Caufield has a ton of confidence and is finding the back of the net. And Suzuki is just unbelievable. His playmaking ability, his leadership, his defensive hockey. The Canadiens are really looking like a top 10 team right now. And they've had a couple of ups and downs in that 4-game Western trip. They lost in overtime when they had the lead late. They lost 1-0 and Wolf just stoned him. They didn't play bad in that game. They beat Vancouver pretty much handily. And then they played against Seattle and had a 4-2 lead with a little over 7 minutes left in the third period and gave up 2 goals and an overtime goal right after that. So the Canadiens are heading home, and then they go to the New York Islanders on Thursday. And on the weekend, they have a tough game against the Colorado Avalanche at home. So the Montreal Canadiens are playing some of their best hockey right now. They're one of the top teams, if not the top team in the NHL since that four-nation break, and they have to get through the rest of this month and head into next month. It's looking like a possibility, guys. The Canadiens have 16 games remaining. Mathematically, a lot of people think they have to get to 93 points. That would require 11 wins in 16 games, 11-5, not impossible. And if you look at their schedule in April, it's manageable. Leave it at that. There's no easy team in the NHL, but there's a good possibility the Montreal Canadiens could take more than 11 games in the last last 16 games of the year. So very excited about the second line today. Patrik Laine played probably his best game as a Montreal Canadien 5-on-5. I've been calling him out a lot in this show in terms of 5-on-5. He's always been and always will be an important player on this team. He leads that power play by either his incredible shot or being a deterrent and somebody that other teams look after, and then opening up the play for the Caufields and Slafkovskys and Suzukis of the world. Kudos to Patrik Laine for a great game tonight. That line played very well. I still feel like Roy is a bit of a step behind everybody. He plays a pretty slow game right now. I don't know if he's able to keep up with the NHL speed at this moment. His shot was shown a couple of times. His offensive capabilities were visible. So kudos from that perspective, but he definitely has to pick up the pace and play some solid defense, which he did do. And then the other two lines were great. Gallagher, Dvorak, and Anderson. Dvorak was flying on the ice, and Anderson was playing some good hockey, hitting everything that moved, and Gally was working so hard like he always does. Heineman played a great game with Evans and Armia. Evans and Armia were just incredible in the end. They killed off that penalty at the end, as well as the empty net that the Florida Panthers had at the end of the game. Really excited about the offensive lines. On the defense, everyone played really well. I thought Savard and Jack Guy had a great game. I thought Matheson, I've been one of his biggest critics, but he's been playing really, really solid hockey for 4 games now. I don't know if he's just not taking the same amount of chances. He's decided to play a much more defensive style. He's playing with Alex Carrier, and maybe there's something rubbing off on that perspective, but I have to give hats off to Mike Matheson for playing pretty well in the last 3 to 5 games. And then Lane Hutson and Struble. I mean, Lane Hutson, great assist, great playmaking, played some awesome defense, and Struble is playing really well with him. It seems like a great pairing, and kudos to Lane Hutson for playing on the right side with a left shot. And then, like I said, Samuel Montembeault didn't have a lot of tests in the beginning of the game, and the goal of the game was probably, I wouldn't call it questionable, but could have been stopped. And then at the end of the game, there was definitely that one play in front of the net that he just robbed the guy. And then there was a couple other big saves, important saves. There's a lot of good opportunities. So Montreal Canadiens are in the mix, and very exciting to watch them continue this streak. They play at home against Ottawa. I call a 4-2 victory for the Montreal Canadiens, and that's, again, my heart over my brain. I think Ottawa is playing some tremendous hockey to keep them to 2 goals. The Montreal Canadiens are going to have to play an incredible brand as well. But let's make that prediction. Looking forward to the game. That's it for me. That's it for Next Shift. Suzuki does not suck. Thanks, everyone. Talk to you guys soon.